All right. So I'm pretty sure I did this right. I thought that we were going to have access to native YouTube streaming by now because we hit 50 subscribers yesterday and we are now at 53 in the community. So I was really hoping that I could show up through my phone and do it that way today because I'm going to be doing my hair with you all. But unfortunately, it looks like I will be using StreamYard again, and that's okay. Sometimes you improvise. So, hello, welcome, welcome. Um, Today I thought, I'd do my hair with you all on live and see if anyone who's new or see if there's anyone who is interested in kind of chit-chatting, kikiing. I know we are still a very small but mighty group. And so if there was the opportunity for us to connect, then why not? We should do it, right? Okay, so I thought maybe for today, yesterday we did our Reddit stories, which I thought, there's always some good ones in there. And I made one very personal because it just resonated so much with me. But today I thought I'd tell you a little bit about, well, if there weren't any folks coming on and commenting or joining me today, but I'd tell you all a little bit about myself, especially since we're celebrating 50 subscribers. You might want to know who you're subscribed to and what it is that I bring, what I offer to you all through this YouTube platform, right? Because we come here for a reason. We want to learn, we want to engage, we want to connect, we want to build community, and I want to help with that. And so, hello. First and foremost, my name is Sonia. I am a person who really cares a lot about community building. Um, and I've actually focused on that from an academic standpoint and also from a professional standpoint. I've worked in diversity, equity, and inclusion for several years, always thinking about it in terms of engagement with other people, thinking about dialogue across difference and how we can create the conditions for the best connections to be built between one another, regardless of whether or not we're from different cultures, different countries, different contexts. And so that has been a huge part of my life and even academically speaking, hello. So even academically speaking, um, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how people develop their identities, especially when there are intersections of marginalized identities existing in the same person. So that's where Kimberly Crenshaw's idea of intersectional intersectionality comes in. Hello, please don't eat these. These are not food. They're not tasty, I promise. So all of that is kind of a little bit about me from the back end. And the reason that it's relevant to my journey as a parent and as a postpartum person, please don't eat these. Okay. Is, and I'm just going to probably have to reach up there a bunch. But the reason that this is relevant to who I am and what I offer to you all here on YouTube is manifold. For one, as a woman of color who is postpartum and who is, taking risks just by getting pregnant and going through the pregnancy process in the United States, one of the most unsafe places in the developed world to have a baby, I understand what it's like to feel misunderstood or not heard by the medical institutions. I know what it's like to advocate for myself. I had the great fortune of being exposed to some wonderful creators out there when I was pregnant and when I was realizing that I was going to go through the process of labor and delivery. And I had the opportunity to practice with a really receptive and considerate team of obstetricians, gynecologists, and perinatologists. So I was very fortunate to have some experience in the space and realize like, okay, this is how I can navigate this and be safe. This is how I can navigate this and be happy and healthy throughout the process. Um, even right down to, the things that oftentimes can cause uh, health issues, especially for Black women. So, a little bit of background on my sort of lifestyle. I'm vegan. And as a vegan, I have a tendency to have low blood pressure compared to others, and low cholesterol, like really low cholesterol compared to others. Um, Not in the unhealthy range. It's actually in a part that's not on the chart, right in between what's normal and what is considered to be low cholesterol is where I am. Low as in unhealthy. Um, and so when it came around to my vitals being checked every week or every month during my pregnancy, early on I noticed that my blood pressure was way higher than it should have been for me. But it wasn't even, getting close to high for a person who wouldn't have been pregnant at the time. So I talked to my doctor about this experience, and she was letting me know that, it's pretty common for, women to have higher blood pressure in these moments and like not to worry about it. But she hadn't seen my numbers before. So she went into the computer after I kind of discussed with her what my concerns were and let her know I didn't have major complaints. I just was worried about what could happen. So she went into the computer, she took a look at my chart, and she was like, oh, actually, I want to see you drop your blood pressure like quite a bit. So I need you to take some time and relax. I need you to drink lots of water and get hydrated, stay hydrated. Because as she started to look at my numbers, she realized that even though my blood pressure wasn't in what would be considered like a red zone for pregnant person, I was already excreting protein in my urine, which is a telltale sign of preeclampsia. And so she was looking at all of those factors put together and was able to paint a better and different picture than she would have if she just went based on what was standard and what was expected. Whew, so I have experiences like that I can share with you all and that I want to offer as support, especially for, younger and first time moms who are still building their community and building like that space of, how can I, plan for this? What can I expect in the postpartum period in particular? But I also can answer, pregnancy related questions, especially when it comes to advocacy. I'm not the channel for, hey, I have a medical question. I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor, and I don't want to be a doctor. Right. I am happy with the way that things are and the fact that I can offer support, right? Because one thing that I definitely am is an advocate, a supporter, a community connector, a public speaker, an entertainer of sorts, even. And so I want this experience to be as much as possible enjoyable for you all, right? To be something where you can tune in on a weekly basis to somebody who's really there and who's really present and live, right? And I thought about, I could do more videos and it would be more successful that way on YouTube. That's really how this is set up. But I think I can still do the posting that I normally would do to have the success that I'd like to see on YouTube as far as growing my tiny little baby channel, and still offer you all really quality live interactions and connections through the streaming side of YouTube. And so I'm really excited to offer a little bit of both. What's some other things that'd be cool to talk about? Hello. This little one really wants to eat all the hair products. Um, you know what? I think for today's topic, I'd like to go over the idea of the normal postpartum body. Now that you've got a little background on me, you know that. Oh gosh, actually, before I do that, you should know maybe a little bit about what I studied and what I think about. Because yes, we talked about the community building aspect and the professional areas that I think about now. Hello. Hi. One moment. Oof. So you all know about that. But what you don't know about is, let's see. Um, I studied political science and religion in my undergrad. And then I moved on to study religion and identity development across minority groups in graduate school. For undergrad, I went to school at the University of Vermont, which was a pretty amazing experience and also one of the more challenging experiences that I've ever had. It was a little bit of both in yes. It was a little bit of both in that as a UVM student, I had the pleasure of being surrounded by other people who really cared about the planet, cared about the animals. I was exposed to veganism when I was in UVM. I had the opportunity to learn so much, and I felt like a sponge. On the flip side, I was at one of the least hospitable universities for a woman of color, and particularly generationally Black American person to be going to. There were very few of us. And when I say very few, I mean we were in the single digits of the population at the school. And so every day I also felt like I was in a bit of a fishbowl. A lot of people met me and also met their first Black person. Um, and in a lot of ways, I felt pressured to know and understand and share and teach in ways that I really wish that I didn't have to. Um, but it prepared me to be able to voluntarily learn, know, teach, and share as people all come together to grow together. And so that's one of the things that inspired me to do this channel. And then with grad school, I went to, yes, 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 yes. Is the braid okay? So with grad school, excuse me, friends. With grad school, I studied at Harvard University, which was weird. It was amazing in that I got to meet so many people, like from so many different walks of life, who all were amazing at something. And it almost made me wonder, like, what am I amazing at? Like, why am I here? Um, but I also got to kind of put that aside and just appreciate my experience, appreciate that I did bring something to the table. And that was like my sincere authenticity. I really learned how to stand up for myself and my beliefs when I was at Harvard. I was a person who was really firm in her convictions, but also very interested in learning about what other people knew and how they came to know those things. And so I got to not only gain experience from myself firsthand, but also I got to learn from the experiences of others as they shared. And the reason that that inspires me for this channel is that I have the opportunity to learn from every single one of you. Um, whether I'm learning from the questions that you're asking and then diving more deeply to find out, hey, what are some, unique answers to those questions? What are some thoughts on those questions and how can we, explore those together? But I'll also get to ask my own and dive deeply and share things that are new to me or that are, kind of trending, but from my own perspective, which I'm also really excited to do with you all. I'll leave the professional side out of it for now because, yes, it's there, but there's just so much there. And I'd rather really figure out what my identity is going to be on YouTube before I talk about anything related to my past life work or my present work. What I can say that I don't feel any trepidation about is that I have been a group exercise instructor for like over 10 years at this point. And that is so, so important to my journey here to YouTube. Um, I had this one instructor back when I was an undergrad. She was amazing. Her name was Jessica. Um, well, I had several amazing instructors. Let me not sell any of them short. First was Angel. I used to go to his class every single week and I would stand in the back. And he noticed at some point and he said, okay, we're switching the front and the back rows. And I said, that's all right. That's okay. I don't need to do that. You know, you guys hang out in the front. It's cool. And I was like kind of struck because he really wanted us to all move up. And so he was like, no, you stand right here. And I think he was pushing me to do that because he saw I knew the moves and he saw that I was there every single week, but I was really shy. I stand out, I'm tall. I stood out at UVM for the reasons I shared earlier. And I just didn't want to stand out anymore and, you know, have like, I just wanted to work out, you know, I just wanted to get my sweat on, feel sexy, enjoy myself, and then go home. So the idea of like being in front of the class and having all those eyes on me was terrifying. But he taught me something really important that definitely transcended that room because it kind of brought me into a new version of myself very slowly, but it brought me into a new version of myself where I wasn't so worried about eyes because people may be looking at me. We may be looking at each other, but we're doing so because we're trying to learn from each other. We're trying to follow each other. We're trying to grow with each other. And the best way that I can be a part of the community that I want to be a part of is to grow myself, right? To put myself in those positions where other people can see me take a risk. Um, and so I went from, you know, that moment where he called everyone to the front who was in the back to me voluntarily on my own the next time saying, I want to start in the front this time. I'm going to try that. And just, he smiled at me and that was it. I was cooked. And I became a Zumba fitness instructor, dance fitness instructor, even though I was somebody that like, you know, used to get like kind of teased for like how I danced or not being very like coordinated or whatever. Like the thing is, none of that mattered and it wasn't true either. I am coordinated is just in very specific cases. And I feel when I feel nervous, then, you know, I fumble just like anyone else would. I put so much pressure on myself that I couldn't enjoy the things that I was actually pretty good at naturally. So I went from Angel's class to having Jessica be my instructor, and she had to tie her shoe one time. And she said, you know the dance, right? And I was like, yeah. And she just ran off. And I was like, wait, I thought you were just going to tie your shoe like right here next to me so you could get up. She ran off and she went to go tie her shoe after she confirmed that I knew what choreography was coming. And I was just like, okay, we're doing this. This is fine. This is fine. And I was so nervous. I was also too involved to stay nervous. And the next thing I knew, I went from nervous to having the most fun I'd ever had. Because I realized I did know the song. I did know the choreography. And I really was leading the song. People were following, they were having fun. I was doing the cues correctly, and I couldn't believe it. It was so cool. And that inspires me, even inspired me even further towards YouTube, because I realized that I was using this entertainer in me, this person who's engaging with other people, this person who was teaching and leading a group of people who came together for a purpose. And I got almost addicted to it. I realized that it wasn't really an addiction. It was just what I was supposed to be doing. Like, yes, I have other jobs. Yes, I do those things well. Okay, great. But this is something that fed me in a way I didn't know I was hungry. I realized I was starving for the opportunity to be in a space where we all could just learn and lead one another. And so I tried out YouTube early on, and I was like so nervous and just out of sorts, and I didn't know how to engage, and I felt awkward, and I didn't know how to kind of be myself in the space. So it's not even that it flopped. I had like, at one point, over 100 views on, a channel, which I was so nervous to actually be a part of that. I was like, oh, actually, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So I wasn't even being as consistent as it could have been. And I was still seeing success, which should have told me to stick to it. But I quit. So the reason that I'm here with you all today, yeah, I'm telling them about why I'm here. So the reason I'm here with you all today is because I realized that I didn't have to quit. I didn't even have to pivot. I could have kept going with the channel that I had. And I may bring it back up one day. But for now, or maybe I'll merge the channel and have it be, have a life here with you all. We'll see. But it really showed me that I could bring different parts of myself into the space and that there would be room for who I am, because there's other people out there who are similar, who are situated similarly, who feel alone and who deserve community. And so that's what I'm here to do. And that's what this channel is really about. Now, postpartum body. I was reading through some of the trending YouTube algorithm things, right? The search bar, seeing what people were looking up and looking at shorts. And I was even scrolling through Instagram a little bit and seeing different things about moms that were being posted. And one thing that really stood out to me was this idea of like the snapback in the postpartum space and postpartum bodies in general. Yesterday's story also really pulled that out of me, because I saw this last story that we reviewed in our live stream really, really hinged on that feeling of not good enough, failure, and just, needing that space to breathe and not giving it to ourselves. And so I wanted to talk about the idea of the normal postpartum body, because I don't believe in it. I mean, I do in the sense that all of them are normal, but I also don't, because if they're all normal, then we don't need to say anything. It's just a postpartum body. And the reason I want to speak on this is twofold. One, because I was early on in my postpartum period, literally within the first 3 days of my postpartum period, I was dealing with this feeling of failure. And that's why yesterday's story spoke to me so much. When my daughter was born, she was very calm. The calmest baby I'd ever seen in my life, actually. And calm even to the doctors and nurses who'd seen many a baby come out of a hoop. So I didn't know what to do with her. She would just sleep. She was happy, she was content, and then she would sleep. And when I started to try to breastfeed her, two things came to my attention. One, I had no idea how to do it. Not an iota of an idea. And beyond just not knowing how to do it, was my daughter was struggling with it. even when I was putting all of the pieces together, I was in the right position. I was relaxed and I'd been hand expressing milk for a little while. It wasn't doing what it needed to be doing. And so I found myself absolutely terrified because I realized that she was losing weight. I thought she was heavier than she was at birth. So I thought she was losing like a ton of weight. She wasn't, thank God. But I didn't know that. So I'm sitting here thinking my baby's going to be kept at this hospital because I can't feed her. And I'm the world's worst parent. What's wrong with me? These were all the things that I was worried about. Thank you. Yeah, drive the fire truck. Yeah, I'm telling them all about how I thought I wasn't doing a good job with you. She's like, I don't want to hear that. You're doing great, Mama. You see how you can just narrate whatever you want? So yeah, I was really scared about that. And I had a lactation consultant look at my nipples and tell me that they weren't working properly, but that they might change if I continue to pump and like work on them. And I was like, okay, but like, what does that mean? What's wrong with them so that I can fix it, right? I just wanted to fix whatever was broken. It didn't dawn on me that perhaps there was nothing wrong with me or with them, just something that was not yet ready, but that was preparing itself. But that wasn't the narrative that I was given, so it's not the narrative that I gave myself. So when my daughter couldn't breastfeed, when she couldn't latch, and everyone was grabbing my boobs, and I felt like I wasn't human, like I wasn't getting any dignity in this process. I realized that I didn't have to feel that way, but I didn't know how else to feel. Failure didn't seem to be supportive or helpful. And so I found myself meditating in that hospital room and in that hospital bed with my baby. Still unable to latch. This story doesn't end with me figuring it out. I didn't get to a place where I could breastfeed my daughter until 7 months postpartum. 7 months for anyone who's feeling like they're not good enough or can't figure it out. It took me 7 months to get to a place where we could nurse directly. And I didn't give up. And if you're out there trying, don't give up yourself. You can do it if you want to. I believe in you. Um, my breast milk supply came in the day I was leaving the hospital, like the mature milk. And I started to pump when I got home. Well, home. When I went to the hotel, that's a whole different story. But when I left the hospital and I went to the hotel, um, I realized, oh, I'm just going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to practice. I'm going to have to give us the space to figure it out. Because my postpartum body was not doing what people expected. And so they just said, well, you can just accept it, right? It'll be fine. Just accept it. You'll be fine. The baby will be fine. Just give her formula. It's okay. Bye. 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 And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go about it that way. Bye. 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 You telling the people bye. Hello. Oh, this girl. Peanut. so much. Um, but my body wasn't doing what everyone thought it was going to do or what it should do. So I was getting the advice to just give up, basically. But that wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what my daughter needed. And so I went through my things and I found my breast pump that I bought. I set it up. I figured out how to do it and I started pumping, 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 in addition to the hand expression I was doing until I could say that I had like enough milk for my daughter. Peanut, what are you trying to do? There's only what's there. We'll see. Got a lot of wiggling happening down there. Okay. Yeah. Um you want me to stop? Okay, so it wasn't what I wanted, it wasn't what she needed, and so we persisted. And I accepted that the version of my body that was doing what it was doing everything it could. Say that 10 times fast. But what it also was doing was what was normal for it. My body was still trying to figure out how to function when not pregnant. It had only just gotten acclimated to being pregnant. And so I had to be patient. And when I chose to recognize that, and when I put up the boundaries that were necessary for other people to recognize that, hey, you may not understand what I'm doing, but you don't dictate what I do either. So understand it or not, this is where we're going. We were able to practice nursing every night. And I was pumping milk for her all throughout the day, on demand and also extra, as much as I could. And now she's a very violent nurser. And she does what she needs to do. And she gets a little bit probably frustrated because there's not as much milk as she would like because she's a big girl now. But I don't feel frustrated or stressed out by my postpartum body because I accept that it is as it should be in any moment, even when things aren't going the way that I imagined, even when I don't believe that things are going the way that they should, even. And that's not to delude myself into doing something harmful to my child. I bought the formula. I just only used one serving of it when she was in that period of weight loss. She immediately started to gain weight because she immediately started to drink my breast milk from a bottle. It just took a little bit of time, literally a couple of hours, compared to the stress that I was feeling over the first 3 days. And she regained her birth weight. She doubled her birth weight. And then in not so long, she tripled her birth weight. And she remains on like the 95th percentile or higher for height and weight. And you just never know what's going to be. What I do know is this: when it comes to this community, to these streams, to the posts that will be coming, to the work that we're doing on our bodies and our minds and our spirits, right? Our well-being, our inner person, our psyche. But as we're doing that work together, I would love for this community to be a space where we can ask ourselves the big questions that help us to get to that next thing that's most important to us, and to do so in a way that leaves us feeling healthy, hearty, whole, resilient, and ready for what's next. Our little ones depend on us for that, and honestly, we all deserve it too. So with that, I'm done with my hair. I am going to attend to this little one, and I look forward to catching you all real soon in the next one. But for now, bye.